Life can unexpectedly throw you a curveball. At first, it seems harmless, but then it strikes you hard, much like a little 5-year-old crying his heart out. This happened to me 4 weeks ago. Mark, my husband, our 2 children, and I were at a barbecue on a bright sunny Saturday in August. I was alone in the kitchen preparing pasta salad. Outside, Margaret, the landlady, mingled with the other wives and husbands. Suddenly, Bryce, our little boy of 5 years old, came running in, rushed into me, and began to cry. He tried to say something, but his sobs were so intense that I couldn't understand a word. Clearly relieved, he ran outside. Well, that was strange. Whiskers is my old 15-year-old cat. I had her before I even met Mark. My name is Evelyn Roberts, formerly of O'Brien. I met Mark 10 years ago. He was 25 years old, and I was 23. We hit it off straight away, and it all led to us getting married 2 years later. A year after that, I became pregnant, and we had our first child, who is now 7 years old. 2 years later, I gave birth to Bryce. I can tell the mustache is nearing its end. His vision is fading, and he's struggling to manage his litter, but he remains quite lively and eats well. Mark and I have had several discussions about this and have even started preparing the children for the reality that he doesn't have many years left. However, we haven't come close to making a final decision. Naturally, I'll talk to him about it. As we left the barbecue and drove home, Bryce's words came back to me. "Dear, why did you say that you want to get rid of the cat and get a new one?" "It really traumatized Bryce," I said. For a brief moment, a strange expression crossed Mark's face. Surprise. Shock. I couldn't quite tell. He glanced at Bryce in the back seat. "I didn't say anything like that." "Let's talk about this later, when the kids go to bed," he finally responded. When we arrived home, I had to rouse Bryce, who was extremely tired and grumpy. Bath time turned into quite a challenge, as it usually does with the kids and me. Both Mark and I were worn out as well, so we headed to bed shortly after, and I completely forgot about Whiskers. A week ago, it was our turn to host a barbecue for our friends. While I was in the kitchen, I suddenly needed to use the bathroom. The window was open, allowing fresh air and all the backyard noise to come in. Even though I couldn't see them from the bathroom, I could clearly hear Zane talking to Mark. Okay. I was in a daze. Attempting to sit on the toilet, I realized the seat was raised and ended up sitting improperly. I straightened up, lowered the seat, and sat there for several minutes, feeling my world crumble around me. Bryce's eavesdropped conversation from a few weeks ago came back to me with startling clarity, and I suddenly understood its true meaning. I couldn't understand. I refused to understand. Our life was nearly perfect. We both had jobs we loved, 2 wonderful children, a nice home, and great friends. At 34, I was very pretty, and our sex life was more than satisfactory. So why did he decide to leave me for a younger woman? Why risk losing everything to try a new girl? Despite my efforts, I couldn't pinpoint anything in Mark's behavior that would explain his dissatisfaction with me. He always goes out of his way to show his love for me, his joy that I am his wife, mother, and friend. And I always respond with the same love. Could I have misunderstood what I heard? No. Zane tends to be a bit crude with his language. My marriage is over. I started crying. There is no way I can continue living with this bastard. But how could I continue? What should I do? Should I go and confront him in front of everyone? This will not work. From what they said, it will be done over the long weekend. I needed proof of his deception. It doesn't get any easier than this. A colleague's husband works for a security agency and could install cameras in the house to catch him. Yes, that's exactly what I'll do. And then, having evidence of his deception, I will throw him out into the street and squeeze as much out of him as the court will allow. The hardest part will be living with him for the next week without letting him suspect that something is wrong. I wiped my eyes, reapplied my ruined makeup, and went outside to chat with the guests. The week that followed was terrible. I found it difficult to be affectionate towards Mark. Each time the two-faced son of a bitch tried to be nice and loving and caring, I had to resist the urge to just wipe the smile off his face. Finally, Friday arrived, and I took the children to my parents' house. The moment my mother saw me, she sensed something was wrong. She insisted on knowing what had happened, suspecting it involved Mark. An hour later, with the kids in the basement playing Xbox on the old TV with my dad, I confided everything to my mom and my little sister Natalie. They were just as shocked as I was to hear about Mark's insidious behavior. Although no words could alleviate the pain I felt, it was comforting to know that I could rely on them and count on their support. On Saturday night, Natalie invited me to join her for a drink at a pub with live entertainment. I thought it would be great to just get drunk and forget that my future ex-husband was cheating on me with some chick at that very moment. As I downed glass after glass of wine, my mood didn't improve, but the burning pain slowly started to fade. All of Natalie's friends were much younger than me, but they were pleasant and funny company, albeit a little wild for my taste. Now that they knew about my family problems, they all tried their best to make me feel better. Before long, I found myself constantly on the dance floor. Two young men, Paul and Lane, were particularly attentive to my mood. They danced with me and whispered soothing things like, "What a fool your husband is," and, "If I were him, I'd do anything to keep you." It didn't take long for me to realize that they were mostly trying to take advantage of my suffering, but I didn't care. If my son of a bitch husband could play, then so could I. I know I am an attractive woman, and the obvious behavior of these two boys, not many years removed from adolescence, confirmed this fact. On Sunday, I'll put an end to these lies about marriage, but not without causing a scene. As the evening drew to a close, nearing the last call, I found myself slowly dancing with Paul. I pressed my entire body against his and felt something stir below his waist. That's what I said. "You are a very beautiful woman, Evelyn. I don't know yet what your husband will lose when you leave him, but I can't wait to find out tonight if you let me," Paul whispered in my ear. In the next few seconds, a torrent of conflicting emotions and thoughts surged through my mind. My inherent reserve around other men had been prominent since I met Mark. Two wrongs don't make it right, my mind screamed at me. Ultimately, feelings triumphed over intellect. "This is the first day of my new life, and there is nothing I would like more than to have sex with you," I finally said. He reacted quickly. A few minutes later, I grabbed my purse, and we headed towards Paul's apartment. As soon as the door closed, we started undressing. Paul attempted to lead me to his bedroom, but I pounced on him on the couch, and we began having sex. His youth and attractiveness thrilled me immensely. Suddenly, the sound of keys turning in the lock caught my attention, and Lane appeared in the doorway. When he saw us naked on the couch, he smiled. After closing the door, he stood there watching us. A wild idea flashed through my mind, and I acted on it immediately. I beckoned Lane to come closer with a motion of my finger. "Boys, have you ever done this in threes?" I asked. Everyone unanimously accepted my proposal. Typically, I'm not very loud in my lovemaking, but this wasn't about making love. This was about taking revenge on my traitor husband. I instructed the guys to turn on the video recording on my smartphone to capture every breath, every second of my retaliation, so he could witness the extent of my vengeance. Paul turned on the camera, and we began the process of revenge. Soon, two young guys scored a goal against me. In the morning, nursing a hangover, I returned to my mother's house. After the dinner my mother cooked on Sunday, I headed straight home. I chose not to call Mark to let him know I'd be back a day early. Surprising him with his girl was part of the plan. When I parked in the garage, I was taken aback to see that Mark's car was missing. Was he out with his new girlfriend? It didn't matter. By Monday, someone from the security agency would provide me with all the records. Mustache was the only one who greeted us. I hope the bastard didn't leave it on all weekend, I muttered to myself. After sending the kids downstairs to the playroom, I connected my digital camera to the TV. I was ready to give Mark a good show. Around 10 p.m., I finally heard his car drive up to the house. The door was closed and all the lights were on just as he had left them. I stood in the kitchen, waiting for him and his girlfriend to enter. To my confusion, he walked in alone, carrying a cardboard box. He was completely surprised to see me. "Honey, is something wrong? Are the children sick? You weren't supposed to be back until tomorrow afternoon," Mark asked, his face etched with concern. His anxiety was just starting to surface, and he knew his girlfriend would likely arrive soon. "I know everything, Mark. I overheard your conversation with Zane last week. The cat is already out of the bag," I said. I tone a blend of acid and ice. He lowered his eyes, guilt evident on his face. He whispered, "I'm so sorry, dear. I should have been honest with you. I don't know why I kept this a secret. I knew that after so many years together, you would feel bad about this. But I did all this for the children, so that the shock would not be so great." Now he has me stumped. How will sex with another woman help our children cope with our divorce? It didn't make any sense. Before I could answer, the children ran upstairs and rushed at their father, causing him to nearly drop the box. Suddenly, a faint meow came from the box, surprising both the children and me. Mark carefully placed the box on the floor and opened the doors. Two small heads appeared, looking at the children. "This is for you, children," said Mark. "Two little cats, one for each of you." Suddenly, a wave of nausea hit me. My stomach churned, threatening to empty itself right there in the kitchen. Mark turned his gaze toward me. "Sorry, Evelyn. The last time I visited the vet, he informed me that you didn't have much time left. So I decided to adopt these two kittens to help the children deal with it." He grabbed a couple of beer bottles from the refrigerator and faced me. "How about we head to the living room while the kids get to know the kittens? Wonder what's on TV?" "Crap," I replied.